I would just go back to coffee. Like, yeah, that's nature's energy drink. It's from beans, y'all. Count it as your vegetable.
This is On Nutrition, a podcast from Mayo Clinic where we dig into the latest nutrition trends and research to help you understand what's health and what's hype. I'm Tara Schmidt, a registered dietitian with Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. This episode, energy drinks. Take a stroll down the beverage aisle of the grocery store, and you'll find drinks of all sizes, colors, and energy levels. And the marketing can make it confusing, because on one hand, you have sports drinks, which are designed to replenish your fluids and electrolytes. But then we have energy drinks, which are designed to give you a quick boost using caffeine, sugar, and other stimulants. You can probably guess energy drinks aren't a favorite of us dietitians, the same way we don't love all the sugar in soda or wouldn't recommend lots and lots of coffee beverages. But is it okay to get that quick jolt every now and then when you need it? Like any consumable substance, the most important thing is to make an informed decision. And that's why this episode, I'm joined by Dr. Anna Svatikova. She's a cardiologist at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and has even studied the effects of energy drinks on the heart. She's here to help us decide whether or not to crack open that can.
Hi, Dr. Svatikova. Thank you for being on the podcast with me today.
Thank you, Tara.
I'm so excited to have you here to talk about energy drinks. In 2023, the energy drink industry made $20 billion and is only expected to keep growing. Why do you think they're so popular?
They have become so popular because they enhance our physical and mental performance. And that's why they are so used and targeted for adolescents, for college students, or young adults to really pump them up, to enhance their exercise, to enhance their focus, their mental performance. So they are very high up.
So are there proven benefits to energy drinks?
I have to say there are studies that show that because of their high caffeine content, they have what is called ergogenic effects. So they enhance physical and cognitive performance. So in terms of the physical performance, studies have shown that energy drinks may enhance endurance, physical endurance, may enhance muscle strength, help runners, help swimmers to achieve their goals. And in terms of the cognitive performance, there are studies that show because of the higher caffeine content, they enhance memory, enhance attention, or faster reaction time.
Kind of selling me on them right now. We'll get to the safety and all the risks in a little bit, but right now I'm a bit sold. Are energy drinks hydrating?
Even though a lot of people believe that energy drinks will hydrate them, we have learned that actually it's the opposite, that they have a net diuretic effect, and it's due to their high caffeine content.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between energy shots and energy drinks? I'll tell you that when my kids are at the grocery store with me, they are super interested in the energy shots because they're little, they're like rainbow in color, and they're always asking for them. I'm like, no, those are for adults. But is there a difference outside of just the volume?
Yeah, they are more concentrated. So they provide the same amount of caffeine, but energy shots, they are like 2.5 ounces big versus the energy drinks in the can may have like 16 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
So the 200 milligrams of caffeine in an energy shot can be just in that little volume. So it's very powerful.
Okay. So we've got energy drinks and energy shots. Let's talk about that in comparison to a cup of coffee, a can of soda, or even tea that has caffeine.
So first of all, the amount of caffeine in the energy drinks is very variable, and it may not be very exact because the manufacturer can decide whether they want to provide information on the caffeine content in their drink. But in general, the 12 to 16 ounces energy drink can have anywhere from 75 to 260 milligrams of caffeine per serving. Now, in 8 ounces of brewed coffee, we typically get anywhere from 100 to 200. So it's not that different. Now, how does it compare to a black tea? I would say about an 8 ounce of black tea has about half of what we get in a coffee. And then about a 12-ounce can of soda would have even less than a cup of black tea. So They're pretty strong.
And I hear this marketing term or advertising term of, I'm going to put it in quotes, clean caffeine or caffeine that is derived from, quote, natural sources. Is there a health difference between these two, clean versus artificial caffeine?
In a clean caffeine or kind of a natural source of caffeine, that's what we get from coffee beans, tea leaves, or there are these guarana berries that
Hmm.
grow in South America. And so these natural sources, they have also what we call a bioactive components. They have something extra, maybe some antioxidant
Hmm.
properties, polyphenols, may have anti-inflammatory properties. So these natural sources of caffeine may add additional bioactive features versus synthetic caffeine is really produced through chemical synthesis.
Okay, so it's less that there's issues with synthetic caffeine and more that the natural caffeine could have added benefits. Now, caffeine is pretty normalized in our society, and it's also the star of the show in these energy drinks. Is there harm in a drink with 200 milligrams of caffeine if having 400 milligrams a day is considered safe for the average adult?
There are studies that it enhances the mental, physical
Hmm.
performance. But now we are also learning how much caffeine is safe. And that brings us really to the point that in the energy drinks, it's not only caffeine, which by all means is the most prevalent ingredient, but there are other things in the energy drinks that are also stimulants. And it's the combination of the caffeine together with the other stimulants that brings the topic of danger of these energy drinks.
Yeah, so speaking of those things that get combined with caffeine, I've seen the phrase energy blend on drink labels. Is that what we're talking about here? What does energy blend actually mean?
Energy blend is a blend of different stimulants. And the most profound stimulant in the energy drink is indeed caffeine, but there are other ones. There's sugar, and there's also other vitamins, minerals. There's taurine. There are a variety of herbal extracts like ginseng, guarana, ginkgo. And all these ingredients may provide so-called synergistic effect to really boost one's physical and cognitive performance.
Now, what about sugar? As a dietitian, I'm focused a lot on the added sugar that is drowning our food environment. How much
Yeah.
added sugar is in the average energy drink?
I think people would be surprised how much sugar there is in an energy drink in a can. Manufacturers can just put as much as they wish. It can range from like 30 grams up to 70 grams in one serving.
Whoa, that's more than you want. Trust me.
So if we think about it, a teaspoon has about 4 grams of sugar.
Hmm.
And if this drink has about 60 grams, we are talking about like 15 teaspoons of sugar in one serving.
And 15 teaspoons is a third of a cup. And we're not baking cookies here. We're drinking a single energy drink.
It's more than entire day's worth of added
Yes.
sugar in one drink. I think this is one thing that consumers need to be aware of. It's not only the caffeine, but also this huge amount of sugar.
And in addition to things like cane sugar or high fructose corn syrup, what other kinds of sweeteners are they using?
So they have used sucrose, glucose, or the non-caloric sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, or stevia is used. So they are really providing the sweetness that people want without the caloric and glycemic effects. But on the contrary, we are still learning about what are the long-term effects of these sweeteners.
Beyond the sugar, let's talk more about ingredients. Are there certain ingredients you would advise someone to stay away from?
As we discussed, sugar and high doses of caffeine. And a lot of times we know that some of these ingredients like ginseng and ginkgo, they can be beneficial in small amounts if taken as a single component. But once it gets blended, the synergistic effects can provide significant stimulant effects beyond what we want.
So, what's in an energy drink? The main ingredient is caffeine, a stimulant we're all pretty familiar with. But energy drinks can have other ingredients too: taurine, ginseng, guarana, or ginkgo, to name a few. And these have synergistic effects with the caffeine, meaning that they combine with it to amplify the stimulant effect. Then there's sugar. Energy drinks can have 30 to 70 grams of sugar in one serving. This means you could be getting a whole day's worth of sugar, or even 2 days' worth, from a single drink. But the effects of energy drinks are real. Those feelings of clarity and increased physical endurance you get after drinking them are backed up by science. But there can be risk with that reward. So let's find out what energy drinks do once they're in our bodies.
Let's talk a little bit about short-term side effects when we consume an energy drink.
The short-term side effects are multiple. They can affect our cardiovascular system. They may affect our mental health as well. And being a cardiologist, we are really aware of studies that show that high intake of energy drinks can increase blood pressure. Even taking like a can of energy drink within 30 minutes, the blood pressure may increase by, even in healthy people, 7 millimeters of mercury.
Whoa. Yeah, especially considering there's a very small difference between normal and elevated blood pressure.
So that's quite a bit. What about those people that have already elevated blood pressure? That can be significant. Now, from the heart standpoint, some other short-term effects are developing palpitations, heart rhythm irregularities, electrical activity of the heart changing. Also, from the mental standpoint, short-term effects, agitation, insomnia, difficulty sleeping or falling asleep, risk of depression, substance abuse in general, not only with the energy drinks, but also with alcohol and so forth. We see a lot of anxiety. There are cases of patients coming to the emergency department with seizures.
Wow. So it can range from just kind of throwing you off for the day to some pretty scary stuff. And you specifically have studied energy drinks and their impact on the heart, right?
We did a study looking at energy drinks in healthy young adults, and we found that not only that the blood pressure increases rapidly, but the stress hormones increase by about 70% after drinking one energy drink.
And what about issues related to the liver or the kidneys? Are energy drinks impacting those organ systems as well?
Studies have shown that energy drinks can induce oxidative stress and liver damage. Similarly, they can lead to acute kidney injuries, so they can also affect the kidney function.
What are other long-term side effects of drinking these energy beverages?
A lot of them are still unknown and we are still learning. And there's such a wide variety of energy drinks. But studies so far have shown that yes, chronically taking energy drinks may impact blood pressure, leading to hypertension, patients present with rhythm abnormalities, so arrhythmias, and there are cases even where there are stiffening of the arteries that happen. From the dietitian standpoint, you are, I'm sure, thinking about is weight gain, hyperglycemia, insulin resistance. Now, other long-term side effects that we have to be aware of are the chronic exposure to stimulants ultimately leading to anxiety, leading to insomnia, people unable to sleep, and also agitation.
And some of the issues you mentioned, things like sleep and anxiety, are already things that so many people are struggling with. And it's pretty clear that energy drinks are not the solution. But when you have poor sleep, are you looking for a boost?
Absolutely. It really matters when people take these drinks, or for that matter, drink caffeine. Everybody has different metabolism, but like you said, the energy drinks people grab when they want to combat fatigue, they have to work. And then, yes, they get the caffeine boost for the next few hours, but then they want to go to sleep and they can't. And then their sleep structure is affected. They lose their REM. their deep sleep is affected, and then they wake up in the morning and they feel like they did not have a refreshed sleep.
And then need an energy drink because it
Exactly. So it's
starts
a
all over.
vicious circle, just like with the coffee.
So for people who should really not be drinking them, I'm hearing if you have high blood pressure or hypertension, I'm hearing if you have any irregularities with your heart, like an arrhythmia. Is AFib even part of that category?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm hearing if you already have anxiety that these may not help. If you're on certain medications, any other populations that should really be avoiding energy drinks?
Pregnant breastfeeding women should avoid energy drinks. And then really there is limited data about safe levels of caffeine in general in children and adolescents. So even the American Academy of Pediatrics discourages the consumption of caffeine or any stimulants. So that includes energy drinks in children and adolescents.
And the unfortunate thing is that we know that there has been a rise in the exact population that you're talking about. So young kids and teens, almost a third of them are drinking energy drinks on a regular basis. How do energy drinks affect young people differently?
Kids are more susceptible to the effects of caffeine, and they are still developing, and they may react significantly differently to caffeine intake. They may have difficulty falling asleep. They may develop behavioral and mental health issues. They may develop aggression, anxiety, and therefore, really, I would say that there is no safe limit for children, and we should be avoiding energy drink entirely in this growing, still developing population of people.
Yeah, this is absolutely different for young children. Their brains are not developed yet. And I would assume that they're also emotionally immature to handle some of those effects as well. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
What's the harm in mixing these drinks with medication?
What we can say is that mixing these drinks with medication just pose significant health risk because of the high caffeine content, because caffeine interacts with the medications, and then they can lead to adverse neurological, metabolic, cardiovascular effects. So patients, for instance, taking antidepressants may lead to even more severe agitation. And we know from the heart standpoint that mixing energy drink with some medications may also increase their palpitations, may lead to more arrhythmias or prolong their QT interval. So those can be very dangerous.
When I was in college, a popular energy drink also had alcohol mixed in it in one can. What is the problem with this other than I remember a few news stories about dangerous events that happened mostly with young adolescents in college drinking this beverage?
So mixing energy drinks and alcohol is not favorable. The problem is that when people combine energy drinks and alcohol, they may not be able to tell how intoxicated they are.
Mm.
The caffeine actually reduces the perception of alcohol-induced sedation and impairment. So they keep consuming more alcohol, and then that leads to alcohol-related harm.
Wow. So the downer effects of alcohol are being masked because of the
Yes,
stimulant effect, essentially, of the caffeine,
correct.
which can lead to more alcohol intake because people
Yeah.
don't feel that effect.
And it's interesting that about quarter of college students who consume energy drinks actually get it with alcohol. So that's a huge number. And talking about emergency department visits, when people come and they are found that they have a lot of intake of energy drinks, lots of caffeine, frequently they are mixed with alcohol. And about 42% of all energy drink related emergency department visits are related to combining the energy drink with alcohol or other meds or other drugs like marijuana.
There is a very popular energy drink that essentially targets the fitness community. It has about 200 milligrams of caffeine. That's a pretty strong cup of coffee, so no huge difference there. And you talked a little bit about energy drinks and endurance and strength as well, right? So, how do these energy drinks impact our exercise outcomes or our fitness gains, as they call them, I believe?
There are benefits in terms of the endurance and strength. They are very short term, I would say. So the energy drinks enhance our functional aerobic capacity and they reduce perceived exertion when we are exercising. And studies have shown that getting about 3 milligrams per kilo of body weight of caffeine about an hour before exercise can improve endurance. And there are studies that have shown that 50-meter swim times are better. Studies have shown that there has been improvement in 5K runs, people running, or cyclists. They have better times when they take these energy drinks because they have enhanced exercise capacity and reduced perceived exertion. Now, in terms of strength, individuals may achieve more repetitions without fatigue, and it really depends on the energy drink composition and the caffeine amount.
And you also were talking a lot about the impact that energy drinks have on the heart or on the entire cardiac system. So, would there be harm in combining an energy drink and exercise when your heart rate is already elevated?
Combining exercise and energy drink is not advised just because of the extra stimulants that people get. Plus, energy drinks are dehydrating. So, when people are doing high intensity interval training or they are involved in a competitive sports and have to perform to their best, we want to prevent dehydration. And so, energy drinks would do harm.
If you decide to consume an energy drink, be aware that there are side effects. In the short term, energy drinks can increase your blood pressure, cause heart palpitations or irregularities, and cause agitation, anxiety, and difficulty sleeping, among other things. And if you consume them long term, risks include potential damage to your liver and kidneys, hypertension, heart arrhythmia, stiffening of the arteries, hyperglycemia, weight gain from those liquid calories, insulin resistance, and various mental effects of long-term stimulant exposure. So with all that in mind, if you have known heart issues or a history of anxiety, you should probably skip the energy drink. Same goes if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. And there's no safe level of caffeine consumption for kids and adolescents, so keep them away from the young people in your life. Regardless of age or health status, you should avoid mixing energy drinks with medications or alcohol. And remember, they're dehydrating, so while they might be able to boost your workout or sports performance, they come with risk. But let's be real, we do things every day that have risks. We get in the car and drive, or drink that extra cup of coffee we don't need, or drink that extra cup of coffee while driving. So let's talk about how to drink responsibly and manage your consumption.
So I'm all over the place, right? At first, you were selling me on them, and then I got scared. But I also would love a little mental clarity. I'd love a little bit more endurance during my workout. Is there a healthy and safe way to consume energy drinks?
Caution should be advised for all. And while just moderate consumption may be okay, may be safe for some healthy people, it may not be for those with health conditions. And I think the potential risks simply outweighs the benefits.
And part of this is also a little bit intimidating because manufacturers aren't required to list the exact caffeine content in the drink. So it's often not included on the label. How can we be mindful of how much caffeine we're consuming when that information is not necessarily readily available?
We may not know. It really depends on the manufacturer, unfortunately. Generally, they do disclose the caffeine content, but the extent and accuracy of this disclosure may vary.
Mhm.
Some manufacturers list caffeine as just the ingredient in their ingredient list, and some may say that caffeine is part of their proprietary blend.
Mhm.
And then some don't provide caffeine amount at all. There's no requirement to declare the amount of caffeine. And it's important to know that energy drinks are sold under dietary supplements or beverages. They are not FDA approved.
So they're not regulated either.
Correct. The FDA doesn't approve them before they are marketed. And energy drinks are not monitored by the FDA. And therefore, they are mostly classified as dietary supplements. So they are not subjected to the same rigorous review process as prescription medication.
So if they're not regulated, how can we decide if it's safe?
I think education is super important and people need to know, read the labels, what's in the drink they are just going to ingest. And that's my advice for all the food items we are eating, that we should always read the label.
Just to be informed, right? Increase your information.
Yeah.
If someone is in a situation where they feel the need to buy an energy drink, they were working late or on a long drive, is there a way that you would advise them to choose the safest one or the healthiest one or the best one?
Personally, I don't think there's a best one or safest one because we do not know what's our underlying medical condition. Maybe we are not aware of it, and this can be potentially very harmful. So even though there's no safe one, the factors to consider would be lower caffeine content, lower sugar content, be mindful of how much you drink or drink less of a volume. And don't mix it with other things. Don't mix it with smoking, with marijuana, with alcohol. Caution is advised.
What are symptoms or signs that someone should probably cut back or decrease their intake of energy drinks?
People need to be aware what can they feel after taking energy drinks and what does it mean if they are taking too much. If people are starting to consume more of the energy drink in order to achieve the same stimulant effect, so they are developing tolerance, that's not a good sign. If people are having strong craving for the energy drink, and also for those people that realize that, yes, I know energy drinks are not good for me, they have these adverse effects, but I still want to take them.
So those adverse effects would be like hand tremors or palpitations, right? Like feeling your heartbeat out of your chest.
Yes, those are signs that they should decrease their intake. Plus, even for those drinking coffee, withdrawal symptoms are real as well.
Do you think people can be, is addicted the right word? Can they be dependent, maybe? Is that more accurate to say?
Dependence and addictions, I think, are words that we have to start using because they contain caffeine. And caffeine is a psychoactive substance and that can cause dependence. Plus, what we know is that in the energy drinks, it's the combination of caffeine, one psychoactive substance, with another stimulant like the taurine. And they together can lead to more addictive potential.
What's your advice for someone struggling with a dependency on these kind of drinks?
So, limiting the intake of energy drinks, avoiding combining them with alcohol, checking the label, educating themselves, and don't stop in those stores that will have energy drinks if you know that this is something you're trying to work on. But I think the most important thing is to educate people about potential risks and to seek support from their medical providers. There are behavioral interventions that can be helping.
Are there healthy alternative sources of caffeine, right? The internet's always looking for like nature's energy drink. Does this exist? I would just go back to coffee. Like, yeah, that's nature's energy drink. It's from beans, y'all. Count it as your vegetable. But do we have an alternative?
Certainly coffee or tea or yerba mate or cocoa are suitable alternatives to people to reduce their caffeine intake compared to energy drinks. Maybe you have seen online something called L-theanine. Have you heard of that?
Mm-hmm. And amino acid.
These very unique amino acids, and there are some energy drinks that start to put them as one of the components. They are found in the leaves of a tea plant, and I think it gives the tea a very distinct flavor. But this L-theanine has been shown in short term to promote relaxation, but it does not sedate people. It breaks their anxiousness and may have some cognitive enhancing properties. They may reduce oxidative stress, have some anti-inflammatory properties as well. But we do not really know, despite these promising findings, what are the long-term consequences for this amino acid. And the evidence supporting the health benefits remains limited. And I think that caution is warranted until more data is available.
What about organic energy drinks?
Organic energy drinks, it really means that their ingredients are organic. So they use organic coffee beans, organic tea extracts, they may have organic sugar and organic fruit juices. But even though they are the organic alternatives, they still have huge amount of caffeine and sugar, and they can still lead to potential adverse health effects. So be cautious. Even though it's organic, doesn't mean it's good for you because of the high amount of caffeine and sugars.
If people are looking for ways to boost their energy, are there other behaviors or habits that we can engage in instead of beverages? Whenever my husband is tired while he's driving, he just rolls down the window. No matter how cold it is, I absolutely hate it. I like to turn on music that pumps me up, get a little T-Swift, or I don't know.
My husband, when we go on a long trips and we are feeling sleepy, we have to stop at every rest area and we will do jumping jacks and squats.
You are such a cardiologist right now.
And increase our energy. And I think those things on a long trips are very important. I think for anybody, getting regular exercise, following healthy diet, and promoting healthy sleep habits is super important.
Can I add just regular hydration to that list? A lot of people
Absolutely.
have fatigue when they are dehydrated.
That's key. Sometimes our fatigue is simply due to dehydration.
Dr. Svatikova, I am so appreciative of you as a colleague and a friend and as a podcast guest. So thank you again for spending time with me today.
Thank you, Tara, for having me.
So even though many people can have an energy drink and be perfectly fine afterwards, be aware that there's not a guaranteed safe way to consume energy drinks. It really comes down to what's in that drink and your individual risk. But if you are going to have an energy drink, look at the label. Try to choose one with less caffeine and/or less sugar, and maybe only drink half of it instead of the whole thing. And don't mix it with other substances. Because energy drinks contain caffeine, that means they do have addictive potential, just like coffee. So if you notice yourself needing to consume more and more to get the same effect, start getting cravings, or notice side effects like hand tremors or heart palpitations, those could be signs to cut back. If you're looking for alternatives to energy drinks, there are the usual caffeinated suspects: coffee, tea, cocoa, etc. Or you can do some quick cardio like jumping jacks to get your heart rate up for a bit. But in the long term, the best way to keep your energy up is regular exercise, a healthy diet, good sleep habits, and hydration. Those things don't come in a cool can, but their benefits will last a lot longer. That's all for this episode. But if you have a follow-up question, leave us a voicemail at 507-538-6272, and we'll answer it in a future episode. On the next episode of On Nutrition, diabetes.
Cinnamon's not going to hurt you, unless you're taking spoonfuls and you choke on it.
For more On Nutrition episodes and resources, check us out online at mayoclinic.org/onnutrition. And if you found the show helpful, please subscribe and make sure to rate and review us on your podcast app. It really helps others find our show. Thanks for listening. And until next time, eat well and be well.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as medical or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider for any medical questions. The appearance of any guest does not imply an endorsement of them, their employer, or any entity they represent. The views and opinions are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Mayo Clinic. Reference to any product, service, or entity does not constitute an endorsement of or recommendation by Mayo Clinic.